Hare Krishna, thank you for joining this morning. Let's make a start with Radha Madhav. Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Giravardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Giravardhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tiravanchari. Jayo Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tatati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavcha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaramanatam Nitam Saryam Sadhvetam Savadutam Krishna Setam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shivichakarmitam Scha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namastute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavan Veshwari Rishabhanu Sutadevi Pranmami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpata Brihas Chakir Pasandave Vichapatana Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Nama Yam Upadaya Krishna Vasthavatale Śrīmate Jayapataka Swami Te Namane Namo Namaste Saraswate Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschate Deshatarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Go Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukham Kroti Vachalam Pangum Langyate Grim Yat Kirpatam Mandeshi Gurun Din Taranam Ramananda Madhavam Shishtatanaishwaram. Hari Om Tassat. Narayam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Naruttamam Devim Sasvyatam Tato Jamaduriyat. Nashta Preshabdarishu Nitam Bhagavad-Sevayā Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki Jai. Okay, so we're doing verses 20 to 25, if I remember correctly. So let's share. Okay. So, as mentioned in the message, we've nearly finished this chapter quicker than I expected. So you can see there's not much reports in this. So that's why they're going to finish a little bit quicker than I expected. So Rig Yaju Samat Vakya Vedas Chatvar Utartha Itihasa Puranam Cha Panchamo Veda Uchyate. So we're talking about Vyasadev and the four Vedas. So Rig Yajus Sam Atharva Akhya, the names of the four Vedas, the Vedas, Chatvaraha, four udarataha, made into separate parts, itihasa, historical records like the Mahabharata, and Puranam cha, and the Puranas, Panchamaha, the fifth, Veda, the original source of knowledge, and Uchate is said to be. So the four divisions of the original source of knowledge were made separately, but the historical facts and authentic stories mentioned in the Puranas are called the fifth Veda. So I don't know if I have anything to add to that. So this is 20. So just there's a mention here about how we acquire knowledge by direct perception or by mental speculation. So we can direct perception, we can see it with the eyes, we can physically see it and we learn from that, or by mental speculation, by our own concoction, thinking. And the third, the best way, is hearing from authorities, especially in matters of spirituality. We can't work out these things. They have to be heard from the authorities, from the parampara, because we have four defects as conditioned souls: imperfect senses, illusion. We get into illusion, we have imperfect senses, we commit mistakes, and we have a cheating propensity. These four defects are there in every conditioned soul. So when we are conditioned, we acquire these four defects as well. Therefore, direct perception and mental speculation cannot provide us with perfect knowledge. Yeah, so as we've discussed many times, that this is why material knowledge keeps changing. Scientific knowledge even keeps changing. They were changing their mind, doing U-turns on things. And with other, with material philosophy, there's like new papers published all the time, because somebody else comes and disapproves whatever the person before them had written. So it's imperfect knowledge. Now, spiritual knowledge is perfect knowledge, but that can only come from the perfect source. So, and which is the Lord Himself coming down the parampara, and the knowledge passed on as it is. So it comes from higher authorities, descending knowledge. And it's mentioned that knowledge of Vedas is perfect because it comes from God Himself down the disciplic succession. Material knowledge is continuously modified, as we've just discussed. Wonderful. Next one. Tatrag Veda Dharappa Paila Samago Jaimanihi Kabhi Vaishampanya Avaiko Nishnant Nato Jaju Sham Ut. So Tatra thereupon Rigved Darha, the professor of Rigved, Pailha, the rishi named Paila, Samgha, that of the Samved, Jaimanihi, the rishi named Jaimani, Kavhi, highly qualified. So before this, to call a highly qualified person a Kavi, or Kavihi in this case. Vaishampayana, the rishi named Vaishampayana, which Vyasadeva, Eva, only, Eka, alone, Nishnataha, well versed, Yajusham, of the Yajurved, Ut, glorified. So after the Vedas were divided into four divisions, Paila Rishi became the professor of the Rigved, Jaimani the professor of the Samved, and Vaishampanya alone became glorified by the Yajurved. So that's how they divided the four Vedas. The different Vedas were entrusted to different learned scholars for development in various ways. So Vyasadeva had his disciples or his associates who helped him in dividing the Vedas. And it's mentioned that Vyasadeva wrote and divided the Vedas into four categories and gave the development responsibility to different sages to look after each one. He also created writings for the Puranas, and all these he did in a relevant way for the Kali Yuga people. So it's mentioned that Rig Veda was compiled by Paila Rishi, Samved by Jaimani Rishi, Yajurved by Vaishampanya Rishi, and Atharvaved Sumantu Muni or Angira mentioned here. And the Puranas were done by Romaharshan. So that's how, I mean, they are so extensive that you need other people to help him to do this. There's no way you can, you could do it if you have lifespan, you could do it, but then it would take so long. Better finish soon as possible. So he did that. He took some help. So it's mentioned here, Atharvaga Risam Asit Sumantur Darino Muni Itihasa Purananam Pita Me Romaharshanaha. So Atharva, the Atharvaveda, Angira Sam unto the Rishi Angira. Asit was entrusted, Sumantu, also known as Sumantu Muni. Tarunaha, seriously devoted to the Atharvaveda. Muni, the sage, Itihasa Puranam, of the historical records and the Puranas. Pita, father, may mine, Romaharshan, the Rishi, Romaharshan. So the Samantu Muni Angira, who was devoutedly engaged, was entrusted with the Atharvaveda, and my father Romaharshan. So this is Sutta Goswami now telling the sages of Naimisharanya about how he was done, and so instead of saying Romaharshan, he's saying my father Romaharshan was entrusted with the Puranas and historical records. In the Shruti mantras, it is also stated that Angira Muni, who strictly followed the rigid principle of Atharvaveda, was a leader of the followers of the Atharvaveda. So Romaharshan was entrusted with the Puranas. Romaharshan, he did so much, but the Balaram had to kill him, not for standing up when he walked into the room. And I think Balaram felt, or maybe it was the case, that Romaharshan was getting a little bit puffed up with his achievements, and he thought he was higher than God himself. It can easily happen. So that's the possible explanation to that. Okay, so 23. Ta eta rishyo vedam swam swam vyasayan anikadha shishihi parishyestachishye vedaste shakino bhavan. So they ete, all these rishi learned scholars, Vedam, the respective Vedas, swam in their own interested matters, Vyasyan rendered, Anekadaha many, Shishyahi disciples, Prashishyahi grand disciples, Tat Shishyahi great grand disciples, Vedate followers of respective Vedas, Shakinha different branches, Abhavan thus became. So all these scholars, all these learned scholars, in their turn, rendered their entrusted Vedas onto their many disciples, grand disciples, and great grand disciples. And thus the respective branches of the followers of the Vedas came into being. So the original source of knowledge is the Vedas. There are no branches of knowledge, either mundane or transcendental, which do not belong to the original text of the Vedas. They have simply been developed into different branches. They were originally rendered by great, respectable and learned professors. In other words, the Vedic knowledge broken into different branches by different disciplic successions has been distributed all over the world. No one therefore can claim independent knowledge beyond the Vedas. And it's mentioned that Vedas are not meant for unqualified people. They cannot access it. Vedas have to be explained by high authority, and Hera would have exceptional quality to understand. So, we can get the best teacher to guide you, but if it's not sinking in, it's not going in, then what can the Acharya do? Even Brahmaji had to be explained by the Lord. So you can imagine. In the Satyug, they had more intelligence capacity. Srila Prabhupada, by his potency, made the people very intelligent, so they could understand even though they were in a lower modes. So the Guru can bless you with intelligence, from what it's mentioned here. In the Kali Yuga, those who can understand the Vedas, Mahabharata and Bhagavad-Gita is given. So the Vedas might be very complicated to understand. So we have the Bhagavad-Gita and the Mahabharata for the people as the basis where you can start learning about Lord Krishna and about Vedic knowledge. That's the basic knowledge, and that's where it begins from those. And they're interesting as well because they're like stories. They're like a big pastime, and everybody is interested in that. Everybody, even it could come in English, and then the foreign country they are all interested in knowing. It's because it's as a story, but at the same time you're learning things about the Lord as well. Okay. So in 24 explains Ta eva veda durmade daryante purishe yatha evam chakar bhagwan vyasa karpana vatsala. They that eva certainly Veda, the book of knowledge, durmadehi, by the less intelligent, daryante, can assimilate, purishehi, by the man, yatha, as much as, evam, thus, chakar, edited, Bhagwan, the powerful, Vyasa, the great Vyas, sage Vyas, Karpana Vatsalha, very kind to the ignorant mass. Thus the great sage Vyasdev, who is very kind to the ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual men. Because as intelligence was reducing, things were being, the scripture were being simplified to match the intelligence of the masses. And then we got the Bhagavad-Gita and the Mahabharata as well. So somebody still can't understand, then they can see that. So the Veda is one, and the reason for its division is in many parts explained here with the seed of all knowledge, or the Veda, is not a subject matter which can easily be understood by an ordinary man. There is a stricture that no one should try to learn the Vedas who is not a qualified Brahman. This stricture has been wrongly interpreted in so many ways. I just think, in the past, even the Bhagavad-Gita and the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it wasn't accessible to everyone. So a class of men who claim Brahmanical qualifications simply by the birthright in the family of a Brahman claim that the study of the Veda is a monopoly of the Brahman caste only. So when they say qualified Brahman, does not necessarily mean being born into a Brahman family only. Another section of the people take this as injustice to members of other castes who do not happen to take birth in a Brahman family. So yeah, the Brahmanas did have a monopoly on everything, on the temples and on the scriptures, on the mantras. They had a monopoly on these, and nobody else was allowed to take part or to learn these things. I think even in the Gurukuls, only certain people were allowed to study. But both of them are misguided. The Vedas are subjects which had to be explained even to Brahmaji by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the subject matter is understood by persons with exceptional qualities of goodness. Persons who are in the mode of passion and ignorance are unable to understand the subject matter of the Vedas. The ultimate goal of Vedic knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality Godhead. So if somebody wants to know, why are we following the regulations? Why are we chanting? Why are we doing other services? Because we want to maintain our mode of goodness, because only then you start getting, the knowledge sticks with you and understanding comes to you. So it's important. If you are in the mode of passion and ignorance, for sure, everybody can understand ignorance, even passion, too much rush, and too much enjoyment, too much sense gratification. You cannot understand spirituality in that, that frame of mind. You have to be in a calm mood, and a mood for trying to understand, and mood of sacrifice, and then these things start, a mood of service, things start developing. The ultimate goal of Vedic knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This personality is very rarely understood by those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance. In the Satya Yuga, everyone was situated in the mode of goodness. That's the thing. Everybody was doing the same thing. And so maybe it means that there was no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit relationships, intoxication, like that was prominent in the Satya Yuga. Gradually, the mode of goodness declined during the Treta and the Dwapar Yugas, and the general mass of people became corrupt. In the present age, the mode of goodness is almost nil. So this is why I can say for myself, there was no way we were in the mode of goodness before coming to Krishna consciousness. Never heard of the mode of goodness. It's all, if it's not ignorance, then it's about passion, it's about how much you can enjoy. Everything you're doing is for enjoyment. You're working for enjoyment, you're living for enjoyment, you're planning your day, your week, your month, your year for enjoyment. And everything you say, oh, we're going to have a good time, we're going to have fun. It's all about having a good time and fun, for the senses. If you haven't had fun, then, what's the point? This film was boring, this drama was boring, this concert was boring because we didn't enjoy it. Or you go there, everything is built around having a good time. So, which is not, meant to be in the mode of goodness, because we're only thinking about our senses, and our senses are not meant for like mass sense gratification. They're really not meant for that reason, and we'll discuss that later on. They're not licensed. We don't have that license for that kind of enjoyment. If you want that license, then you have to move to a lower mode. Then you can have that license to enjoy as an animal. The license is there. You have the right to enjoy like that. Not as a human. You don't have the license to do so much sense gratification. And the general mass of people became corrupt. In the present age, the mode of goodness is almost nil. And so for the general mass of people, the kind-hearted, powerful sage Srila Vyasa divided the Vedas in various ways so that they may be practically followed by less intelligent persons in the modes of passion and ignorance. It is explained in the shloka as follows. So just want to read that again. The kind-hearted, powerful sage Srila Vyasa divided the Vedas in various ways so that they may be practically followed by less intelligent persons who are in the modes of passion and ignorance. Right, okay. So 24, I think we have discussed, and 25. So here we go. So Istri Shudra Dvij Bandhunam Traina Shruti Gochara Karma Shresi Mudanam Shreya Evam Bhaved Ihya Iti Bharatam Akhyanam Kirpya Munina Kritam. So Istri, the woman class, Shudra, the living class, Dvija Bandhunam, of the friends of the twice born, Treyi, the three sacrificial Vedas, Nashruti Gochara, not allowed to be heard, Karma Shreyasi, in the successful execution of ritual duties, Mudanam, of the less intelligent, Shreya, supreme benefit, Evam thus Bhavet, achieved Iha by this, Iti thus thinking, Bharatam, the great Mahabharat, Akhyanam, historical facts, Kripya, out of great mercy, Munina, by the Muni, Kritam is completed. So out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. So the friends of twice born families are those who are born in the families of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or the spiritually cultured families, but who themselves are not equal to their forefathers. Such descendants are not recognized as such for want of purificatory achievements. The purificatory activities begin even before the birth of a child, and the seed-giving reformatory process is called the Garbhadan Samskar. One who has not undergone such Garbhadan Samskar or spiritual family planning is not accepted as being of an actual twice-born family. The Garbhadan Samskar is followed by the other purificatory processes, out of which the sacred thread ceremony is one. This is performed at the time of spiritual initiation. After this particular samskar, one is rightly called twice born. One birth is calculated during the seed-giving samskar, and the second birth is calculated at the time of spiritual initiation. One who has been able to undergo such important samskars can be called a bona fide twice born. So I think they're talking about like when Garbhadan Samskar, when you're born, and then the second twice born is when you have like Brahman initiation. Then you're twice born, bona fide twice born. If the father and the mother do not take the process of spiritual family planning and simply beget children out of passion only, their children are called Dvija Bandhus. These Dvija Bandhus are certainly not as intelligent as the children of the regular twice born families. The Dvija Bandhus are classified with Shudras and the woman class, who are by nature less intelligent. The Shudras and the woman class do not have to undergo any samskar save and exempt the ceremony of marriage. The less intelligent classes of men, namely women, Shudras, and unqualified sons of the higher caste, are devoid of necessary qualifications to understand the purpose of the transcendental Vedas. For them, the Mahabharata was prepared. The purpose of Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of the Vedas, and therefore within this Mahabharata, the summary Veda of the Bhagavad-Gita is placed. The less intelligent are more interested in stories than in philosophy, and therefore the philosophy of the Vedas in the form of Bhagavad-Gita is spoken by the Lord Shri Krishna. Vyasadeva and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane, and therefore they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of this age. The Bhagavad-Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, and the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is a subject matter for study by the spiritual graduates. Only the postgraduate spiritual student can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. It is a great science, and the great professor is the Lord himself in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and persons who are empowered by him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Right. So first thing to understand is that in this yuga right now, everyone is a Shudra. and whether the men are not necessarily more qualified than the women, because their capacity has reduced anyway. So I don't think anyone's really qualified in this yuga to consider themselves, on that to understand the Vedas or scripture knowledge. Now it's by the mercy of the Guru, of our spiritual master, of Srila Prabhupada, who has empowered us, by coming to him. That's our initial Shraddha. By coming to him, we have been empowered to understand all these things. Whether whether you're Shudra or whatever, we are all Shudras and we are all unqualified. Srila Prabhupada has blessed us. We have his blessings, or we still ask for more blessings so that we can understand this Vedic knowledge. Because without that blessing, there's nothing going to sink in. Nothing we can understand anything. And just I want to touch on the samskaras, just to show what what that's all about. So there's 16 major samskaras. So it's mentioned that the samskaras mean impressions that are put on a child from time of conception, and to create. So these are spiritual impressions, and throughout child's life. So the child grows into like a Krishna conscious mode. You see, is that consciousness, the spiritual consciousness, that the soul becomes Krishna conscious. So this is like, we obviously don't follow everything on here, but it's to help. Somebody really wants to help the child, they can help that way. So first one is the right at the top here, the Garbhadanam, and we're going clockwise. So Garbhadanam, before conception, where the parents to be chant 50 rounds to conceive high-level consciousness, spirit soul, more elevated soul. So that's recommended for devotees to chant 50 rounds and before conception. That's like a process that is followed by many people, and the result is there. I've been told that the child that is born, is like a totally different level. They're very spiritual. Why? When you're in that, because whatever consciousness the parents are in when they're conceiving a child, that consciousness goes into the child. And this consciousness, this subtle theory, it's very important, because we say, like, when we're eating, the consciousness of the cook goes into us. So imagine this, that before conception, whatever the state the parents are in mentally, that mental state goes into the child, who's in the soul that is conceived. And so it's very important. When you chant 50 rounds, and you're totally on a different level to conceive. And even the process of conceiving would be that you want to have a child. It's not in a mode of passion. It's like you want to have a child that is Krishna conscious. Now that's what you're thinking. That's the reason you're doing it. So it's very, very important process, and people who have followed it, the results are there. So first is on conception, and then there's a samskar called Pumsavanam, the 3rd month of pregnancy, which I have no idea about. Simantam, for protection of mother before childbirth. And then there's Jat Karmam, for intellectual development of child. And so there's so many samskaras. There's 40 actually, and 16 are major. And then Namkaran, name given ceremony, we know about. And then Nishkarmanam, taking child first time out of house, there's ceremony for that. And there's Anprasanam, which we know about, first time feeding solid food. So what do you feed? You feed the child prasad. So first time he takes a grain, he takes prasad. And how much more spiritual can it become? Just starting with or her with prasad. And then there's Chudakaranam, So for the boy, it would be first time cutting hair, or we call Munnan. And there's a Karna Vedam, piercing ear, I guess, for the girls, or maybe they can both have, I don't know. So Vidya Rambam, child is taught to write first time, there's some scar for that. Upanayanam, wearing sacred thread. So when they're a certain age, they get the sacred thread. There's a samskar for that. Ceremony, samskar means ceremony. For that, these are mentioned in the Manu Smriti. Praishartham, before and after each year of study. I don't think anybody goes into that much detail over, but these are there. And Kesantham, the first time the boy shaves, or Ritu Sudhi for the girls. Samavartanam, end of student life. And then we know about the Vivaham ceremony, and then we all know about the Ante Yeshti, the Antim Samskar, the last rites, which we all know and seen. So these 16 samskars, major samskars, we don't necessarily follow all of them, but I think some of them are very, very important, especially the Garbhadanam, the last rites, and the Vivaha marriage samskars are there. And we have the Munnan as well, and the first time feeding, like that. So 5, 6, I think most people follow. I don't know about the 16. How many people follow all 16 major samskar, but this is how it's meant to be, to guide the child throughout his age to the end, Vivaha marriage, samskar, and then is when the person gets old and dies, and there's the last rites. So throughout, is connected to spirituality. So thank you so much, and like to hear from yourselves on this. Okay, we have Hina Mataji, Hare Krishna. Would you like to share something?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, I think the main points for me were around the four Vedas and how they were entrusted to different learned rishis to build them out, to develop them, and so the Vedas were then broken into different branches. There was one sentence that I've kind of taken away, which I've written down. Was in Prabhupada's purport about the original source of knowledge is the Vedas. And I was just kind of thinking about how today in modern society, how much of, society is now kind of turning to the Vedas. There's a lot that's coming out of it that people are adopting. So, for example, yoga, meditation, people are, there's more Ayurvedic awareness out there now in modern society than maybe 50 years ago. So it's great that a lot of some of this is now leaking out, which is becoming more mainstream, which is great. I also liked your point around how Srila Prabhupada writes that only in the mode of goodness are you able to understand the Vedas, and that those in the modes of passion and ignorance can't, or they struggle to understand it. So it's important on that point then for people to come to that basic level, to just come to the mode of goodness, to be able to just to be able to try to understand these our sastra. And I was just thinking about how everybody more or less, like what you were saying, is more or less fallen in this age. And so we are, like you said, completely, empowered, and we are where we are by the blessings of Guru and Srila Prabhupada, and that allows us, it's through their mercy that we're able to understand what we're reading at the moment. So it's it's something to be very, very, very thankful for. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, wonderful points. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, absolutely right. And when we are in chanting, we say Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasi Gaur Bhaktivedanta. We seek the mercy of the Panchatattva, and we take the blessings, and we ask for forgiveness because we will be chanting offensively, because our mind will be wandering off here and there, thinking about all of the things. So yeah, blessings and taking shelter, very, very important. Shelter of spiritual master, of the Panchatattva, of Mahaprabhu. It's very important to take shelter in everything we do. Yeah, and you're right. There's a lot of holistic stuff going on, and as we were discussing last week, that the other countries took the Vedas and used them, the information they had it translated, and they used it for their own benefit. Whereas in our own home, in our own country, we didn't apply it properly, or we take it for granted, right? But yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming that people are using from there. This somebody was inquiring about having a table at 24-hour kirtan. They're having a table. I don't know whether there's any left, but we're trying to see if we can accommodate them. Then they are selling products on cowpathy. Obviously, all the cow products, and because cow, we were discussing about the cow and how important and useful cows are. Why we worship them, and these people are selling products on cowpathy. So again, the information obviously comes out of the scriptures, from scriptural knowledge. Thank you so much, Mataji. Praveen Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanavad Pranam. Yes, spoken about Vedas, and Mataji's explained nicely how they're split by Srila Vyasadeva into 4. And Vedas is the knowledge from the Lord himself. And knowledge, the spiritual knowledge is the perfect knowledge, but it has to come from the right source in the parampara. And we are very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has kindly given us all this information. And the other point that came was the Brahmanas, because before it was the monopoly of the Brahmanas, like when they're born in the family of Brahmanas, and everybody thought we are Brahmana, because I always thought I'm a Brahmana because I'm born in a Brahmana family, but Brahmana has to be by practice. So that's another beauty of Krishna consciousness, that anybody can be Brahmana. So we have to practice devotional service, and also Vedas can only be understood in the mode of goodness, which can only be achieved by regulated life. And Srila Prabhupada has given us 4 regulated principles. And Shikshashtakam we read, there's a verse, Trinadapi sunichena taroriva sahishnuna amanina mandena kirtanya sadahari. And to develop these qualities, humility, free from false prestige, tolerance, and respect for everyone, these are very important to be in the mode of goodness. So we have been given all this knowledge. We have to realize, reflect on it, and see how we can change ourselves. Yeah, it is easy when we read it, but then as soon as the class finishes, then we get into the different mode. So, but at least we are in the good mode, when we are in the class. So we are trying. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Absolutely. So when we're following the regulations, we are chanting, we're doing our services, we are in the mode of goodness, because we're keeping on that track, we're not diverting from that. Yeah, my mind is difficult, it wants to take us away out of that, and Maya is also pulling us from the other side. So yeah, it's challenging, but this is why philosophy is important, that we keep reminding ourselves, we stay right in the middle. When the lion is attacking, who does he attack? The one who is not in the herd, who's standing away from the herd. The lion will go for that, right? But one who has taken association in the herd of devotees, the one right in the center, the lion can't touch, can't get to him, right? So we want to be in the center. So Maya or anything, it can't touch us. The mind can't take us out, and the Maya can't enter to attack us. We want to be right in the middle. So one who is split it, he's on his own, or looks the weakest in the in the bunch, the one who gets attacked. So very important. We keep knocking the philosophy all the time. Just it's a reminder. Keep reminding us of our of our situation, and also keep chanting, keep watering that Bhakti Lata Beach. This chanting is the water that we use, and the association is the sunshine that helps to grow our the seed of bhakti, and the soil, the nourishment is our attitude, gratitude, and like you said, Tinada Pishaneshna, that humbleness, the humility needs to be there. So the soil that our plant is growing in, the seed, the bhakti plant, is always fertile, should always be fertile, help it to grow. The nourishment should be there. So yeah, thank you so much, and thank you to Suresh and Jasmine for joining. I really appreciate you taking time and associating. If Suresh Prabhu or Mataji, if you like to say anything, let me know. If not, that's fine also. Prabhu, I don't know if he's driving, so let me know if you like to add something or say something. Okay, that's fine. Thank you for joining. Please keep listening. And Radharani, would you like to say?
Yes. Hare Krishna, everyone. So originally it was just a Veda, and Veda would have been impossible for our age, and how mercifully by Srila Vyasadeva, he had the vision, he could see the problems of the Kali-yuga people before even Kali-yuga started, and he divided the Veda into 4 parts, and not just 4. Then there was 5th also. 5th is called the Itihas, the historical versions which are given like in Puranas, and there's Mahabharat and Ramayana. They were written as well for the people who won't be able to understand even the 4 Vedas, because 4 Vedas are impossible. So that's why all the summary is given. The Vedanta summary is in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So it's the mercy of these glorified personalities who were empowered by Lord Shri Krishna himself to prepare these things for these knowledgeable treasures, books, spiritual scriptures for us, so that we could understand at least something. Yeah, it is impossible to have anything stick to our heads, the people of Kali-yuga, but it's fine. I always say to myself that it's fine, you just hear, you get purified at that time. What you can absorb, or you can revisit, or you can the next time you get the chance to hear, you hear something is revised in your head. So all of us who are reading these or understanding this, or taking anything from this, we are blessed. We don't understand, but when we look around, that there are many people who are just enjoying themselves, and sometimes our minds also say to us, doesn't it, that nothing is sticking, so why are you trying hard? But anyway, there's a purpose behind it. Krishna will remember our endeavors, and Krishna is going to help us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you all so much. We'll catch up on Monday and finish chapter 4. Wednesday, we have the president of Iskcon Leicester. He has kindly agreed to give us an overview on Wednesday evening. So it won't be program on Wednesday morning. We'll have the program on Wednesday evening, and then we'll prepare for 24-hour Kirtan over the weekend. So thank you so much. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. Prem Nande. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much. 3 Haribols for Narayan Prabhu. Haribol. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. You're putting in so much effort.
Thank you, Mataji.
Really appreciate. Thank you.